Hey, good evening. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Gadi Schwartz coming to you from Los Angeles. And here's some of the stories we're watching tonight, starting with that missing sub that disappeared on its way to tour the Titanic. And even if they do find it in time, can the people inside even be saved?
It's pitch black down there. It's freezing cold. The seabed is mud and it's undulating. You can't see your hand in front of your face.
Now, the complexity of a rescue that deep has experts extremely concerned. The Titanic wreckage is too deep even for a Navy sub. And even if it's on the surface, getting the people out in time could be a lot harder than you think. Plus, when people confess their sins, they think it's a safe space, and the priest isn't going to tell anyone, right? But one restaurant here in California hired a fake priest to basically spy on workers. We're going to tell you all about that investigation. And President Biden's son, Hunter, is expected to plead guilty to tax charges as part of a plea deal, while Republicans are saying the DOJ isn't treating everyone equally.
If you were the president's leading political opponent, the DOJ tries to literally put you in jail and give you prison time. If you are the president's son, you get a sweetheart deal.
And we are starting tonight with that international race against time happening in the middle of the North Atlantic Ocean for a crew on board a missing sub. And if they're still alive in that sub at this point, they may be down to less than 34 hours of oxygen left. Now, tonight, the Coast Guard says it is expanding its search. And so far, both aerial and sonar scans of an area roughly the size of Connecticut have turned up nothing. Canada and France are now rushing in to help as well. And the Submersible was part of an Ocean Gate Expeditions tour that lets paying passengers explore the wreckage of the Titanic. That expedition lost contact with the ship it launched off of 1 hour and 45 minutes into the expedition on Sunday. And we're also learning a little bit more about the people on board. They include British billionaire Hamish Harding, a Pakistani businessman and his son, and Stockton Rush, the CEO of the expedition company who was piloting that mission. He gave this interview to CBS Sunday Morning late last year. Take a look.
This is not your grandfather's submersible. We only have one button, that's it. It should be like an elevator. You know, it shouldn't take a lot of skill. We run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on! Notice there he called it a submersible, not a submarine, which is an important difference because when you think of submarine, you usually think of something like this. This is a Navy sub. It can go from port to port. It can go long distances. It also has a hatch that you can open from the inside to get out. And what we're talking about is not like that at all. This thing is tiny. Think minivan sized. And see this part right here? This is the only way in, only way out. And it has to be bolted shut from the outside while it's on board a ship, which means there is no way for people inside to escape unless somebody unbolts it from the surface. And those are the stakes right now with every single minute counting. Tom Costello is following all this in Boston. Tom, I know the Coast Guard has been in the water. They have very powerful sonar. What's the latest on the search?
They haven't heard anything, and that's the real concern. They tell us the U.S. and Canadian Coast Guards have a search zone the size of Connecticut. It is massive. So already we've seen U.S. and Canadian C-130 Hercules aircraft working a grid out over the ocean, looking for any sign of the submersible that may have, if it popped up and it's bobbing on the water. They haven't found any sign of it so far. The breaking news this evening is that the Air Force has sent C-17s to Buffalo, New York, to pick up special salvage equipment and then rush that on to St. John, Newfoundland. That's the staging point in Canada to then get out to the scene. But, Gadi, you know, once you get into St. John, you could have a day, 2 or 3 voyage out to the site. This is taking time, and they don't have much time.
And Tom, we've talked a lot about oxygen, but thinking about people that might be trapped in there for 3, possibly 4 days, what about food and water? What are the supplies like on board?
So I asked that question of a friend of one of the people who's on board. Hamish Harding is on board. He's the billionaire adventurer. I asked one of his friends today because he's been in close contact with him. He texted him just before he went down. I said, do they have food and water on board? He said, I don't think so. They had only a plan for 6 to 8 hours total. However, said his friend, you know, we can all get by on a couple of days without food. You got to have oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, this is not going to end well.
You got to have oxygen. You got to have water, too. Tom, let's go through two best-case scenarios here. Let's say that they find this sub on the surface. They're still bolted in, right? How do they get them out?
Yeah. So if they were to find it on the surface, then the surface ship, which is there to accompany the sub, put the sub on the water, those technicians remain on site. They would get those people to the sub, and they would literally undo those bolts and open it up. They've also, I can tell you that the Canadians have rushed in a hyperbaric chamber so that they can hopefully, if the sub has been in at a deep depth and those divers are in any way feeling the bends, that they can readjust them to surface pressure.
And let's say that they do find them in deep water, the deep ocean there, and there are rescue vessels that can get down to 13,000 feet and bring or not even that. Let's say that they're at like 6,000 feet. What does a rescue operation look like with, you know, submarines, robotic arms? How do they bring it up, and how do they get people out?
So I think we had a very telling answer from the Coast Guard today, Gadi. They don't know. That's the problem. Neither the U.S. nor the Canadian Coast Guard has the capability to effect a deep sea rescue. That's why they're bringing in the Navy's salvage equipment to then get it out on the site. And then how do you attach, let's say they find it, how do you attach the salvage cables or the drones to this sub and lift it up and out? It's impossible to use divers underneath in the water at that depth. They die. So the only option is to hopefully find a way to attach the sub to cables or to another drone with a massive cable lift and pull it up out of the water in time. But time is ticking. We now think that they are 30 to 35 hours away from running out of air. By the way, I should tell you, I asked the commander of the Coast Guard here at Boston, what would you do? Take a listen to what he said. If your submersibles can find this sub, is there any way to retrieve it and save the people on board?
Yeah, so right now, all of our efforts are focused on finding the sub. What I will tell you is we have a group of our nation's best experts in the Unified Command, and if we get to that point, those experts will be looking at what the next course of action is.
Yeah, bottom line is they don't know. They're going to make it up if and when they find the sub, and they hope they do.
Such a big difference between salvage and rescue. Tom Costello, thanks so much.
Yeah.
And joining us now is someone who helped originally find the Titanic at its wreckage site. Dr. Jules Jaffe is also a research oceanographer at UC San Diego. Dr. Jaffe, thank you so much for joining us. Now, I know you have a lot of experience with such extreme depths. A search with a hard time limit of a little more than 90 hours. This seems like if they are found, it would be an absolute miracle.
Well, I think, let's back it up. First of all, Tom gave a great talk. And one of the things I think we should talk about is rescue. But looking even a bit higher level, the submarine is either sitting on the seafloor, it's somewhere in the water column. We talk about column, but we mean just in the water, or it's on the surface. And the best place it could be would be on the surface. If it was sitting on the seafloor, perhaps tangled in some of the wreck of Titanic, then that poses a incredibly difficult situation to get it out and get them up. The best way to find something sitting in the water that's a giant air-filled capsule is by using the kind of sonars that we use to map the seafloor. And if there was a giant 21-foot air-filled capsule, we would see it. And those sonars have complete capability to bounce sound off of the seafloor. Now, there is a sort of a hint of that when they talked about some of the NOAA ships. The best scenario would be if it was on the sea surface, and presumably we could fly out some salvage divers and put it in the cradle that you're seeing right now. And once it's in the cradle, we could hopefully open the hatch. But I also want to quantify and clarify a point that Tom raised. There are underwater remote operational vehicles. Apparently the French are sending this wonderful ship out right now, which has an underwater robot that is tethered to the surface that can go the full depth of the ocean. So if we were able to identify its location, perhaps sitting somewhere in the water using one of these mapping sonars, perhaps we could send the underwater robot that is attached to the surface with a robotic arm. Those robots can go to 14,000 feet, so they have full depth capability, and then somehow bring it up. But I think we're all worried about 30 hours. And one of the things about oceanography is, contrast to things that happen on land and in the air, things move very slowly.
Just playing out a timeline here, it takes this expedition about 6 hours, so you got to guess maybe 2 to 3 hours to get to the wreckage site, maybe 2 best case scenario, and then maybe 2 hours to come back up. We're talking about, even if we do get this French mechanism in the water, they've got to get it in the water. They've got to get it down to that site. They have to attach some sort of ballast system to get it up to the surface. And then once they get it to the surface, what happens? Are they able to pull people out immediately after being at those depths for that long?
Well, they're acclimated to one atmosphere, so they don't need a hyperbaric chamber. The people that need the hyperbaric chamber are the divers that may need to go down to get to a deeper place, and then they will be coming back up in order to put a tender on it. But yes, it's a complicated operation, but we do have capabilities to have remote operational vehicles. Traditional Navy subs can't do it. The rescue vehicle, the United States Navy has a rescue vehicle for submarines, but our submarines don't go to 13,000 feet. So that's not going to be any help at all. I think the only hope, the best thing would be if it was on the surface and the seas have cleared, the fog or whatever the clouds were have cleared. And if we can find it, then we can fly some people out there, put that cradle underneath it, hopefully open it out from the outside. And once the hatch is off, we now have oxygen. I mean, my fear is that I think one of the things we need to remember is that the acoustics cut off at about 1 3/4 hour. And if we compute the fact that it probably takes about 2.5 hours to get to the Titanic, that means it wasn't quite at the sea floor when the acoustics cut out. And we don't have any idea why the acoustics cut out. Did it collide with something? Was it an electrical failure? Was it a hydraulic failure? I think there are many, many unknowns that we'll maybe never know the answer to, but hopefully we can figure that out. Because if we figure it out and we figure out what went wrong, then we can make it safer for future generations. And that's my hope.
When we're talking about acoustics, you're talking about the sound of the thrusters or the sound that it makes as it normally descends. If something happened to those thrusters, is there a possibility that they could be like banging on the side of this thing and that would be picked up by sonar?
That's what I'd be doing. I'd be taking anything in the hull and just clanging and clanging and clanging. So the kinds of sonars they have are called sonar buoys. So a buoy is basically a float that sits on the sea surface. And the sonar part of that means that there's a microphone sitting on that buoy listening to what's going on underwater. And if we have 2 or 3 or 4 or many of these microphones, we can see how long the time took to get to us, and we can use a procedure called triangulation to do the localization. But the other factor we have to think about is it's now almost 4 days. And if they've been floating around in the water currents have been also transporting them somewhere a bit further away from the site. So the first thing is to find them. And the second thing is to figure out how to get them out. But we haven't even any information about where they are right now, sadly.
Here's holding on to hope. Dr. Jules Jaffe, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And some big news tonight out of Delaware, where the president's son, Hunter Biden, just agreed to plead guilty to criminal charges stemming from a 5-year federal investigation. Now, as part of that plea bargain, Hunter Biden will plead guilty to 2 federal tax crimes, and while he also faces a separate felony gun possession charge, that might get dismissed if he meets certain conditions. Now, this is the first time the Department of Justice will charge the child of a sitting president. Hunter Biden is expected to be arraigned in the coming days in Delaware. Delaware, and NBC Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian has been following it all. Ken, break this down. These two charges, they're misdemeanors, right? Exactly what is he saying he's guilty of here?
Gadi, he's admitting that he willfully failed to pay his taxes in 2017 and 2018, and we're talking about a lot of money. He paid more than $1 million last year in an attempt to settle these charges. The actual documents just say it was more than $100,000 each year, but it's a lot of money. He's admitting to crimes, but they're misdemeanors, so they carry a maximum penalty of 12 months in prison, and this plea agreement calls for no jail time at all. So in many ways, it's a very serious matter, but it could have been a lot worse, Gadi.
And this gun charge, what's that all about?
So the gun charge has to do with a form he filled out, and he didn't disclose that he was addicted to drugs, which makes you a prohibited person. You're not allowed to buy a gun when you're addicted to drugs. So he wrote a book acknowledging that he was a drug addict. He bought a gun during that time, so that's technically a felony. But it's a rarely charged crime, and it's not like he shot anyone. So what they're doing here is they're allowing him to go through what's called deferred adjudication. Basically, if he complies with certain provisions, we don't know exactly what those are yet, this charge will be dismissed and it will not go on his record.
And back in May, I remember President Biden saying this to our colleague Stephanie Ruhle. If we have it, let's play that.
First of all, my son's done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him. And it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him.
What's the White House's response today? And is this the end of allegations or any investigations related to Hunter Biden, or is there anything else that's potentially out there?
The White House is trying to stay far away from this. President Biden said today he's proud of his son. But look, that reaction was what a lot of even middle-of-the-road people, nonpartisan people, have a problem with, because whatever else happened here, Hunter Biden made millions of dollars doing business with foreign firms while his father was vice president. And I've spoken to ethics experts, nonpartisan experts, who say that was a problem. That should not have happened. And of course, Republicans in Congress are investigating whether that was corrupt, and they are going to continue to press those investigations, Gadi.
Those investigations continue. Ken, thank you.
You bet.
And have you ever wondered if your boss might be spying on you, like maybe monitoring your Slack channels or your emails, trying to catch you in a lie? Oh, well, this next story takes that to the next level and beyond. In Northern California, the Department of Labor is saying that a Mexican restaurant chain hired a fake priest to spy on its workers. Now, the owner of Taqueria Garibaldi might have brought in a fake priest to try to get confessions during work hours from some of his employees. And that fake priest pleaded with the employees to, quote, get the sins out by confessing things that they might have done wrong, like being late for work, stealing money from the restaurant, and having, quote, bad intentions toward their boss. Now, the restaurant is being forced to pay $140,000 in back wages and damages to 35 workers. And following all of this is NBC's Nyla Charles. So, Nyla, this mysterious fake priest, do they know who he is?
Well, they don't know who this person is. They don't know the name of the person. And the Department of Labor tells me when I ask that they're actually not even investigating that part of it because they're only concerned with the labor law violations here, Gadi. But it's important to note the timing of this, because when this alleged fake priest was brought into the restaurant, the Department of Labor was already investigating the restaurant owners for these labor law violations. So I did speak to them. They say what they believe is that the restaurant owners brought this person in so that they could empathize with the employees, who are mostly Latino Catholics, to try to get them to not cooperate with the investigation.
So they tried to get the workers not to cooperate?
Correct.
How did they do that?
Well, they did that because they held their immigration status over their heads. So the Department of Labor says that they threatened to get them deported if they came forward. And actually, this happens a lot. Listen to what the Department of Labor says about it.
In the food service industry, within the Latino community, a lot of workers tend to be undocumented, and employers who hire them know that and will use that as a leverage to exploit them.
So what he told me, Gadi, is that everyone has is entitled to workers' rights regardless of their immigration status. So no one has to come forward to the Department of Labor with fear that they're going to get deported because of the agency. In fact, the department doesn't even ask for immigration status when having victims come forward.
Meanwhile, is this restaurant still open?
Yeah, it is still open, but with the agreement that it won't retaliate against its employees and also won't prevent them from cooperating with any labor law violations when reporting them. So what they did tell me is that some of the employees are actually still working there despite the things that happened, despite the fact that they weren't getting paid overtime and weren't even getting their tips. But although they seem to be operating and hopefully don't have any more infractions, in the court of public opinion, it's not looking too hot for them on Yelp. There's a lot of people going after these owners saying, hey, don't eat here because they don't treat their employees fairly. One of them said, if anyone needs a priest, it's the owners of those restaurants.
Meanwhile, those workers at least still have a job for now. Nyla, thanks so much for this very, very bizarre story. And we've got a lot of news to get to this hour. Still ahead, details of a deadly fire in New York City that broke out in an e-bike shop. And will President Trump participate in the RNC debate? Given that he was just indicted on federal charges, we're going to have a lot more on that, so stay tuned. Hey there, welcome back. And here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. Trump lawyer John Eastman could be disbarred here in California. He's the one that created that memo during the Trump administration saying that then Vice President Mike Pence could overturn the 2020 election. A council is looking to revoke Eastman's license to practice law here in California. And in New York, 4 people are dead after a fire broke out in an e-bike shop and it spread to apartments above it. Now, this happened in the Lower East Side of Manhattan shortly after midnight, and the fire marshal says that lithium-ion batteries might have caused it. 2 women were also hospitalized. In Arkansas, a judge has stricken down a law that would have banned transition-related medical care for transgender minors. The judge permanently blocked the law, calling it unconstitutional, saying it violates the First Amendment and clauses of the 14th Amendment. This is the first time a judge has overturned this type of ban. In Idaho, a man has now been charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. And prosecutors are saying he broke into his neighbor's house and killed 4 people, including a minor. If he's convicted, he could face the death penalty. And Fox News anchors Brett Baier and Martha McCallum will moderate the first Republican presidential primary debate in August in Milwaukee. All of the candidates on stage will need to agree to a party loyalty pledge ahead of time. And whether or not Trump is going to be a part of those debates is still up in the air. Trump has been saying maybe he'll skip them, and now he might be too busy. And the reason, we now have a trial date for the classified documents case, and that is August 14th, which is just a week before a scheduled debate. The trial is expected to last 2 weeks, but the start date could end up being delayed. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, timing is everything here. Is this moving really fast?
Well, no, because the district judge can be expected to set a date that is this close in August, because that's what district courts do. Then usually it falls upon the parties to come to the court and say, hey, this case is complex or we need additional time. So in that sense, it's not unusual for a district court, federal district court, to set a very short schedule leading up to trial. But let's face it, this case is not going forward to trial on that date. It's impossible.
So this is like a bookmark here.
It's an ambitious goal more than anything, and really, to me, a signal from the district court that they're at least trying to treat this as a normal case when it's anything but normal.
What are some of the things that will cause delays here?
Motions, many motions by the defense, dispositive, in other words, to throw the case out completely. The judge is going to have to hear opposition, then hear replies from the defense again, and then consider these motions and think about them. There's no set timeline for that, depending on how the judge works. She may be faster or slower than normal. There is no normal. It's whatever the district court wants to do when entertaining motions. So those alone can add time. One or more of the parties might come to the court and say, hey, this is a complex case. We need more time. And then you have the thorny classified documents issue, which is bound to add additional time and preparation that is largely anticipated, but also unanticipated. This trial is a ways off.
Given the complexity of this case, do you think we'll see a trial this year?
That's a tough one. In theory, you might get a trial date right around the end of the year. But look, my rule of thumb is in a complex case, take whatever date you think it's going to trial and at least add 2, maybe 3 months. So if I'm just taking the odds, I always take the over on how long it will take for a case to come to trial.
It's a Valos rule of thumb. Thanks so much, Danny. And coming up, we're going to take you to the ground in Mississippi where tornadoes absolutely destroyed parts of the state. But first, you got to see this. This bear in Colorado wasn't even polite enough to go through the front door. He is just hanging out the window. And I guess he was too afraid to make the drop, so he decided to find another way down through the house. Doesn't seem to have very good manners. We'll be right back. Hey there, welcome back. Let's get you caught up in 30 seconds. Precious time is ticking away right now to find that missing sub near the wreckage of the Titanic. The Coast Guard says if the vessel is still intact, it now has less than 35 hours of oxygen left for the 5 people who were on board. The Department of Labor says a restaurant in Northern California is under investigation after the owner hired a fake priest to try to get confessions out of workers. And a trial date has been set for former President Donald Trump's classified documents case. It is August 14th, and that is right before a Republican debate. And meanwhile, more storms tore through the South last night, killing at least 1 person in Mississippi. A massive tornado touched down in Jasper County, and it left a wide field of devastation, flattening homes and mangling entire forests. Storms have knocked out power for thousands, and those storms also brought flooding across parts of the Gulf states, with water rescues happening across Mobile County, Alabama. And NBC's Blaine Alexander is in New Orleans with more on the widespread severe weather threats.
Well, Gadi, good to see you. Here in New Orleans, the concern is rain, potential flash flooding. In fact, much of this area was under a moderate flood watch for the better part of the afternoon and into the evening. That's because there was risk of thunderstorms over this area. So we're talking about possibly 1-inch size hail. We're talking about lightning strikes, lots of lightning, wind gusts, perhaps up to 60 miles per hour, and certainly the possibility of rain. And of course, as severe thunderstorms bring, we're talking also about the risk of isolated tornadoes. Now, the good news here in New Orleans is that we're not expecting to see the type of damage that we saw elsewhere. We're not expecting the type of tornado outbreaks that we saw over the past 5 days or so sweeping through the South. That's what brought that catastrophic damage to parts of Texas and parts of Lewin, Mississippi. I spent about 24 hours there. We just came from there, in fact, Gadi, and we saw utter devastation. We saw homes that were unrecognizable. We saw tractor trailers picked up, thrown down the street, and tossed like toys. So when you talk about a strong winds there, it's confirmed that there was an EF3 tornado that hit that area, and really that was kind of what we saw from those types of storms. Now, the other side of this coin, Gadi, is while we talk about severe weather, we're also talking about heat. There's still the hundreds of thousands of people, a little more than 200,000 people or so, that are still working to get power back on. All of this is coupled with near record-breaking temperatures in some of the very same areas that were hit by these storms. So certainly when you talk about people trying to clean up, trying to go through the devastation and the wreckage with no power, no AC, it certainly complicates the situation significantly. Gadi.
And tonight, a brutal heat wave just won't let up on Texas. How hot is it? It's hot enough right now to bake cookies in your car in San Angelo. It's reached 114 there today, and this is happening after a series of brutal storms knocked power out for thousands in the state. Some organizations are passing out ice and water. Others are opening cooling centers, all to make the wait for power a bit more bearable. Let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, there's posted temperatures, and then there's how it really feels, right?
Yeah, so let me ask you, what do you think is more impressive? So the heat index in Dallas hit 117 today. That was the highest in 43 years. So that's one. The other stat is the San Angelo one. You just showed the picture of the cookies in the window. That was the hottest temperature in San Angelo ever recorded, going back 107 years. Yeah.
I mean, we complain when it hits 90 here. That is just insane.
Yeah, San Angelo felt like Phoenix today, and Dallas felt like living on the Gulf Coast. They were hot and humid. So here's that all-time heat record. San Angelo, the 114. I don't want to leave Del Rio out. Del Rio, it's not official yet. They didn't break it. It looks like they have tied their all-time hottest temperature. And just to give you an idea of San Angelo, they've been keeping these records since about 1907. So out of 41,000 days recording the temperature, today was the hottest they've ever seen. So that's impressive. So here's what the forecast looks like. It will drop off a little bit, not a lot, but in Dallas goes 97 tomorrow and mid-90s. And then San Angelo today, obviously 114, 109 tomorrow, 104, 104. So it's a little bit of a break, but it's going to be short-lived, unfortunately. That heat dome is actually going to grow this weekend and all into next week. We're expecting much warmer than average conditions, a continuation of this heat wave, probably more record heat, and areas that are humid will have those crazy humidity. And what's interesting is that California's below average. It looks like the Great Lakes are going to be below average. This has been the weather pattern all of June, along with the dry weather in the southern plains. And what's going to change is that we're finally going to get some wet weather in the northwest and in the northeast. So, Gadi, that's kind of the story with the temperatures. Now the severe weather today is not as bad as yesterday. We've had some strong storms from Biloxi, just missed New Orleans. Baton Rouge has been dealing with it, too. So anyone driving I-10 has experienced a little bit, but it hasn't been as severe. And the final piece of our puzzle, everyone was talking about Tropical Storm Brett. It formed the furthest out in the Atlantic Basin. And now it looks like the thing is weakening. Shear is not going to allow it to get to a hurricane anymore. The Hurricane Center does bring it up to a strong tropical storm, does bring it through the islands here, right around St. Lucia. And then it goes into significant shear, and they actually have it dissipating on Saturday. They keep it south of Puerto Rico, missing all land areas. So, Gadi, this would be a best-case scenario for everyone, that Brett does not look like to be a serious threat.
Best case scenario, but still so much to come. Bill Cairns,
long season.
And it seems like these days, if you ask a kid what they want to be, they'll say TikToker or YouTuber or influencer. But the chances of that happening as more and more people post their lives online are getting slimmer by the day, while some successful influencers are burning out on a lifestyle that seemed too good to be true. Our friend and NBC reporter Maya Eaglin has a story.
I was 20 years old in 2009 when I started my channel.
For 11 years, Ingrid Nilsson's day-to-day revolved around documenting her life and broadcasting it to her more than 3 million followers.
Hey guys, this is my favorite hairstyle to wear. Today, I'm going to be doing the TMI tag. I'm going to be showing you every single thing that I eat today.
But putting everything online had negative effects offline.
As I kept vlogging more, I realized that sharing the mundane parts of my life were actually the things that I needed to keep for myself. Ultimately, the big moment came in 2020 when we were all in lockdown. I thought to myself, I can stop. I can stop doing this now.
This video that you're watching right now is going to be the last video that I post on my YouTube channel.
Ingrid's not alone. A small but steady stream of creators have moved on from the influencing life, whether it's because they've outgrown it or are simply focusing on other business ventures.
I am going to be taking off some extended time from Instagram. Do I put influencer on the top of my resume? I just didn't know how to do it, but so I just kind of did it and figured it out.
Lee Tillman's a former Instagram influencer who now works as a creative strategist.
I soon felt like a billboard, which in a way, that's how I made my money. But I started to feel like it wasn't about me anymore. I was like, brands want to use and access my audience. And that's when I kind of started to think, what would it be like if I were just normal?
She also offers a workshop on how to lead the influencing life.
I just thought, I don't know if anyone's going to sign up. Even if I just get one sign up, it's a success. It sold out.
These days, Ingrid lives a quieter life, running a candle business.
My co-founder, Erica, and I launched the New Savant in December 2020 with 500 candles, and we sold out in 7 minutes. And what I've realized is now people actually care more about the product than they care about what's going on in my life, which is exactly how I want it to be.
Maya Eaglin, NBC News.
Maya Eaglin, thanks so much for that. All right, so if you don't do well with creepy, crawly things, you might want to look away for this next story, because there is a legit caterpillar invasion happening right now in Washington's Skagit County. Now, these little insects, they peak every 7 years in these cycles, and that is exactly what's happening right now. Mimi Jung and Jake Wittenberg from our affiliate King have a whole lot more.
So we're on the ferry right now to Guimas Island.
A few of you reached out to say there is some kind of an infestation on the island, so of course we had to check it out.
So apparently one person said it's even like a carpet full of fuzzy creatures.
How's it going?
Fine.
Good to see you.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, careful, don't get one on your head.
I just didn't realize they're all over the place.
They are everywhere. Wow.
You're going to step on lots of them. You're going to get them on you.
Look at this. I feel like every step I take, I'm crushing several of them.
Look at this bush right here. This is a huckleberry bush. And you can see them writhing in the grass and on the walls of my house and have destroyed the orchard. It first became a problem probably about 2 weeks ago. You come inside and they start crawling out of your neck and up your pants and everything else, and it's very irritating. And you start getting the heebie-jeebies. I had to get a haircut because my own hair was freaking me out. You know, I go,
So what's up in the trees?
Those are tents. Those are the tents. They're up here too. Those trees are the real favorite food of these caterpillars. All that right there should be just a canopy of green leaves, particularly alders and all kind of fruit trees really get infested with them. Oh, I'll show you some more better stuff over here.
So he just said he's going to show us something so gross we're not going to believe it.
It's going to be tough to top what I've experienced in the last few minutes.
Never seen anything like it.
Now watch this. Do you want to try sweeping it, Mimi? The big crack. Do it. Once you get that cleared, you can step up.
Right here?
Come on. Yeah, sweep all that.
Why are you making me do
Because
this?
feel how it feels.
Oh!
Keep going. It happens every 7 years or so, but I didn't notice it because I didn't live here the last time.
We're going to his neighbor's house because apparently they're all kind of having the same issue.
Welcome to paradise. Normally, you know, this is paradise, but not this year. I had my husband look over my shoulder, my hat, and he peeled 5 or 6 off me when I came in the house.
I think we need an expert to tell us what we're looking at here.
Ooh, I know the perfect guy at the state DNR.
I have seen western tent caterpillar crawling all over the ground, you know, going on a bike ride, but I have never seen anything like that in Washington. I've been with DNR for 15 years.
Do you have any idea why it's so prolific on Guimas Island right now? What's going on?
The natural control of the caterpillars, primarily a virus, has lowered over the last few years, and it's just allowing a lot more caterpillars to survive and breed. The food that they're eating, drought stress will cause leaves on trees to be smaller, and the sugars in those leaves a little more concentrated. And so it's possible these caterpillars are just getting a more nutritious food source right now.
How long does this last? How long can the people of Guimas Island deal with this?
Yeah, it's probably just a few more weeks.
It's part of nature, so, you know, that's just how we got to roll with it here.
Guimish Island, more like Squeamish Island. Mimi and Jake, you guys are champs. Thank you so much for that report. And still ahead, people in Serbia are starting to give up their guns by the tens of thousands after deadly mass shootings rocked the country last month. This and more coming up right after the break. Hey there, welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world in 80 seconds. Influencer Andrew Tate has been indicted on rape and human trafficking charges in Romania. Tate, his brother Tristan, and 2 others have all been under house arrest since December. Now, a judge will decide tomorrow on whether to keep them confined at home longer. All the suspects deny the allegations. The Taliban has carried out what's thought to be the second public execution since taking over Afghanistan. The country's Supreme Court ruled for a man from Kabul to be killed by firing squad. He was accused of killing 5 people. French police searched the headquarters of the Paris Olympics organizers today, and this is all part of a corruption investigation linked to the Games. Today, we also learned about two investigations, one looking into how Paris secured the Games and one looking into contracts related to the Games. And a new Vatican document says the church should consider welcoming more people, and that includes the LGBTQ community and anyone who's had a divorce. The document also says the church should explore giving women more decision-making power and even allowing them to become ordained deacons. Meanwhile, here in the United States, mass shootings are unfortunately nothing new in America, but in Serbia, they are extremely uncommon until recently. And now Serbians are choosing to give up their guns by the tens of thousands after two different shootings in May left 18 people dead. NBC's chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has more.
Serbians didn't see it coming. On May 3rd, a 13-year-old boy stormed into his school with his father's two guns and a hit list and killed 8 classmates. The next day, a man with a history of violence opened fire in a village, killing 8 more. But then came more than thoughts and prayers. Tens of thousands demanded not just tighter gun controls, but a reorientation of society away from violence.
I think a lot of us have just had enough.
Zarko Svejcik's 9-year-old daughter Zora was in the school when the 13-year-old boy went on a killing spree.
What would you say to Americans who've been through this and then see no change?
I would say to them, you know, safeguard your democracy if you still have it, and mobilize.
Within weeks of the shootings here, new laws were introduced and old ones enforced. Now, all sales of new guns are banned for 2 years. Gun owners must submit to in-person psychological and background checks. And owning an illegal gun is punishable by up to 15 years in prison. Many Serbians are turning in their guns voluntarily.
Here's lots of AKs and assault rifles.
There are 70,000 guns in this police warehouse, surrendered under a no-questions-asked amnesty. The Deputy Interior Minister says this is only the start.
What do you think when you see all of this?
I see life saved, he said. Serbia is deeply divided politically, but overhauling gun laws was universally popular. Dobrika Veselinovic is an opposition politician.
Why is it, do you think, you were able to cross political divides?
We are not having these big gun lobbies and the big industry which is behind it.
The father we spoke to, and many others, now want to push further, dialing back violence in the media and in political discourse.
Richard Engel, thanks so much. And take a look at this. This is coming from our NBC affiliate in Las Vegas. This is a live look at a massive fire in the southwest valley of the city. Officials are telling our affiliate KSNV that it appears to be at some apartment complex near the intersection of Buffalo and 215. Now, the cause of that fire is still unknown, but the building on fire right now is apparently under construction. Crews are still working to put out the fire, but as you can see, it is a very, very large one. We're going to keep an eye on this story. But before we go, it is time for the future of everything. And the White House is tackling AI regulations head on. President Biden met with experts to learn about its benefits and its risks. And we're also going to take you to the California Science Center, where the Endeavour space shuttle is preparing for a new kind of mission. We're not done yet, so don't go anywhere. And in tonight's Future of Everything, are we getting closer to seeing AI get regulated? We've already seen tech leaders brought to Capitol Hill to get grilled about it, right? Well, now it looks like Washington has made its way to Silicon Valley. And by Washington, we mean the president, who is in San Francisco right now meeting with some of the biggest critics of unregulated AI to hear their concerns. And NBC's Mike Mimley joins us now from San Francisco. Mike, if the president was keeping a pros and cons list on AI, what does that list look like after today?
Well, Gadi, really is. We just have to take a step back and note how remarkable it is that in just the span of less than a year, artificial intelligence has gone from sort of a theoretical concept to something with such practical applications that it has rocketed to the top of the agenda in Washington. And that's really what the president was here to talk about. He had a meeting in Washington about a month ago with some of the stakeholders, those who are trying to use AI in commercial interests and the like. And today meeting with some real skeptics who want to see more robust regulation. And if you talk to White House officials, they do see incredible promise with this AI technology, especially in the realm of health. The president has talked about the potential application of this to help find cures for diseases like cancer. But on the flip side, there are a lot of things on the con list, and that's really what's driving the policymaking at the White House right now. There are concerns about national security, about how foreign governments might take this technology and use it for nefarious purposes, especially our adversaries like China. And then there are economic impacts, which is what I'm told by White House officials is what the president's really zeroed in on. The fact that automation has really already taken a lot of jobs out of the economy, and artificial intelligence is that on steroids, might even further accelerate this trend, especially in the middle class. So that's really what the president's thinking about as he hears from these critics today and as the White House moves forward with some potential executive actions on this front.
And Mike, we saw late last year the White House released a blueprint for AI called the AI Bill of Rights. AI is moving hella fast. How long is it going to be before we actually see some sort of comprehensive regulation here?
Well, what we learned from the White House today is that they expect to be making some announcements, they said, in, quote, the coming weeks. So potentially just in less than a month if we judge the White House by how something sometimes slip. They said that this process is being run out of the Office of the White House Chief of Staff, and that's a little wonky, but I'll explain why it's important. It could have been handled by the National Security Council with a focus on the sort of security implications of this. It could have been handled by the Domestic Policy Council, another entity in the White House, which would have focused sort of on the economic impacts potentially. So the fact that it's being run out of the White House Chief of Staff office is a much more comprehensive approach to this. And it also speaks to the fact that the president is directly engaged. The White House saying this is a top priority of his. And we're going to see as part of that, the vice president, the president announced today, will be hosting a summit just in the next month as well with civil rights groups, civil society as well, to talk about the real need to focus on the potential security implications, but also personal and security implications as well.
Mike, there's been a lot of talk about putting all of this on pause, this whole AI arms race that we've been seeing. Does it look like the president would support that?
No, they look like they want to really move ahead with some rules of the road as quickly as they can. They're also calling on some of these private sector entities to voluntarily take some action to put some their self-imposed guardrails before the government puts them for them. And we're also, Gadi, seeing Congress step in as well. You have a Democrat, Ted Lieu, from here in California, Ken Buck, a Republican from Colorado, really at the opposite ends of the ideological spectrum, but today introducing legislation together that would form a bipartisan commission to also look into what might be some potential regulatory rules of the road going forward. So a lot of focus, as I said, at the top of the agenda now in Washington on this.
And in Washington, they write laws, but out here, they write code even faster. Mike, thanks so much.
That's right. You got it.
And these days, space travel is becoming an almost weekly event, right? But before Artemis, before SpaceX and commercial space flights, NASA's Space Shuttle program captured the world with every single mission. And when the program retired in 2011, the California Science Center is making sure the Space Shuttle legacy lives on and continues to inspire people to look up.
It was the middle of the night on June 1st, 2011, when Space Shuttle Endeavour touched down at NASA's Kennedy Space Center for the last time.
Your landing ends a vibrant legacy for this amazing vehicle that will long be remembered. Welcome home, Endeavour.
That was then. This is now.
And there it is. I've seen this so many times, and I never get over how massive it is.
Today, the shuttle sits at the California Science Center in Los Angeles, where visitors can see it up close. And I mean really close.
It's massive, and it's got this history of having flown 25 times in space. And when you think about that, it's kind of got its own character and its soul that you can feel something more.
While Endeavour is done flying, it'll soon be on the move again.
Its last trip until now was a 12-mile journey from Los Angeles Airport to here.
Yeah, no one will ever forget that trip.
Right. Now, the next trip is much shorter. It's just from this side of the California Science Center to the other side of the California Science Center, where we're building the new Samuel Ocean Air and Space Center.
To put it another way, Endeavour is getting its own museum.
There's an enormous amount of planning.
Because of its size, not to mention its thousands of specialized tiles, it can't fit through any door. Instead, the new Science Center will be built, get this, mostly around the shuttle. And when it's done, visitors will be able to see it in a way few people have seen it before.
So much of the mission here is to get people to look up. And now the shuttle will be pointing up.
It will. Our mission is to stimulate curiosity and inspire science learning in everyone. We want to get young people in particular to want to learn about science, engineering, and exploration. Space has always done that really well.
Making it what could be the tallest vertical display of a real spacecraft anywhere in the world. And then comes the twin rocket boosters and fuel tank that'll make the shuttle look twice its size.
This is the bottom piece of the solid rocket booster, and that will attach to a seismic isolator. And then the rest of the solid rocket booster will go up. It's about 150 feet tall, 15 stories, and then we'll attach the external tank to that.
I'm sorry, did you say seismic isolator?
Seismic isolator.
Because of the earthquakes.
Because of earthquakes.
Oh, my gosh.
They didn't have that issue in Florida.
Jeff and his team designed plans for the entire Science Center more than 30 years ago, and the process has been complex and challenging. But with a new home on the horizon, the payoff in setting their sights on this endeavor has been worth it.
And just to think of all those future astronauts that are going to see that as kids in person makes you smile. That does it for us tonight. I'm Gadi Schwartz. We'll see you tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.